Welcome back to the show, Van Connor. How are we?
Oh, pleasure. I've been dying of the norovirus this past week.
Oh.
Thankfully, I'm recovered in time for this and the Oscars, so things are looking up, sir.
What, you're going to the Oscars?
No, I'm covering the Oscars. I'm covering the Oscars for China, would you believe?
Wow.
But,
that's incredible. Yeah. Well, at least you're all right to be sitting up and watching that. That's a good thing.
Well, I did not have that on the bingo card this year.
Neither did I. No, it's not what I quite expected you to say today. All right, so we've got two movies to talk about today. One involves Pamela Anderson, how you've never seen her before. What would you like to start with?
We'll start with the subtitle of our two then. Let's start with The Seed of the Sacred Fig.
Okay.
Which is a very interesting film. This premiered at Cannes last year.
Oh.
And its writer-director, Mohammad Rasulov, is an Iranian filmmaker who has made this film. He's set and filmed in Iran, and they smuggled this film out to get it to Cannes. And at some point, shortly before the Cannes Film Festival, when it was announced that this had been nominated and was going to premiere there, let's just see, the Iranian regime prosecuted him and sentenced him to 8 years in prison. So, yeah, he was thankfully able to get out of Iran, make his way to Cannes, and several of his cast were left behind. This is the movie that all centered around, which, funnily enough, you can kind of maybe see why the Iranian government had a slight issue with it. It is the story of, it's a family unit, family of four. We ostensibly follow the story for, centering around the perspective of the patriarch, of the father, Imam, whose name literally means faith. He starts the story as a sort of an optimistic, kind of hopeful, a lawyer, an investigative lawyer. He's waiting for a position to open so that he can become a judge, a regional judge. He gets this position, which offers him so much more standing in the community. He can afford a better home for his family, etc. However, on literally his first day in the job, he learns that his background as a legal investigator is not going to be necessary. No, he's not there to make a difference. He's simply there to put a signature on all the death warrants and all of the imprisonment orders and all the things that the regime pass his way. Ooh. He's effectively there to be the rubber stamp. And this, of course, immediately starts to take a toll on him. It's also a job that he has to do in anonymity, because if obviously the Iranian public learn who is signing this, obviously this is potentially fatal to their families. It's unsafe for their families, something that does come up within the story. He also has two daughters who are, let's just say, a bit more westernized. They're a bit more attuned to the politics, the global politics of their environment rather than the internal. So they actually are following, for instance, the current, at the time, I think they're about 2022, protests and the riots that were going on at the time. They are following those on social media. So the film cuts between this narrative and actual documentary footage and camera phone footage and TikToks and Instagram reels of the riots themselves. So it's in parts, about a third of it is a documentary, and 2/3 of it is this riveting, dramatic thriller in which his two wayward daughters and his doting wife find themselves being terrorized by their father when his gun goes missing. And he starts to get very, very paranoid about someone in his life trying to usurp him. Obviously, we've not got a clip for this.
Yeah.
Because I don't know how much of our audience speaks Farsi. I would be fascinated to learn that. But but wow. I sat and watched this, and I had seen I'd seen the trailer for it. I'd been invited to a screening and I couldn't make it, and then I'd seen the poster for it, and I'd seen the trailer with Faith, and she's way more into Middle East politics than I am, and she was obsessed. She, I have to see this. Can we watch that? I'm like, yeah, sure. She watched it the day before me, and said I'd be really interested. I thought this was great, but I'd be really interested to see what you think. I think it's great as well. However, we both came away with we watched this separately, and we both had the same issue. We did not talk about it in the interim, which is its pacing is all over the place. The 2/3 split between the drama and documentary is not even a factor in it. That works perfectly. The actual drama portion of it, which is superbly performed, and Rasulov's direction on this, his writing and his direction is fantastic, but it's his character writing that soars rather than his story writing, because his pacing ramps up and then slows down, and it stays too slow for too long to then go too fast for too short a time. And large chunks of the story happen too quickly, whereas small chunks take place over too long a period of time. It's an hour and 20 minutes into this film before he loses the gun. And the film is 2 3/4 hours long.
Wow.
So that's a big ask for a film that is very good. And it's nominated this weekend for the Best International Feature Oscar. It's up against Emilia Perez. And don't get me wrong, I would love to see this beat Emilia Perez. Like, by all means, please let this beat Emilia Perez. But at the same time, that award's going to Emilia Perez because otherwise they have to feasibly give it, they might feasibly have to justify not giving it Best Picture. But I do think this is an absolute corker. And if you are a fan of world cinema, if you like the work of Jafar Panahi, for instance, another Iranian filmmaker who has made similar dramas and has similarly had kind of beefs with the Iranian government over his work, definitely look this up. But I think this is solid work from Mohammad Rasulov.
Well, if you want to see The Seed of the Sacred Fig, you can this weekend. It's at the Ultimate Picture Palace in Oxford. Right then, we've got a few minutes left. Let's move on to The Last Showgirl, the Pamela Anderson movie. And actually, during the screening of this, you got to meet Pamela herself, didn't you?
Well, she turned up. We were supposed to be all interviewing her, and then they just let Edith Bowman hijack it for some reason. I don't know why. I still don't know what it is that Edith Bowman actually supposedly knows about films, but, that's what Wikipedia is for. Anyway, so The Last Showgirl, which stars Pamela Anderson literally now. So, Pamela Anderson in her, I want to say, mid-50s?
She's got to be about that now, yeah.
Late 50s, I would say. And obviously now is intentionally physically not resembling how she did in her heyday. She's very anti-makeup, and the film kind of plays into that to an extent. So when she is not the showgirl, we very much get raw Pamela Anderson. It is the story, as the title says, of The Last Showgirl. She's a showgirl in a Vegas chorus line. She's literally the poster girl for this show and has been for decades. She has an estranged daughter who is now off at college, who has a closer relationship with her father than she does with her mother for reasons that we don't quite know at the onset of the story. She has dysfunctional romantic relationships. She has a friendship circle that is built entirely out of this workplace environment, that's built out of former showgirls and younger showgirls, that they have a sort of grandmother, motherly daughter kind of dynamic within this circle. And in the mix as well is Dave Bautista, who is the engineer / manager who's running this show, who's kind of a surrogate dad figure to them all. And then one day it is announced that the show is to close. And the story then becomes, what do you do when you've given your life to something and you have reached a stage in your life where you are too old to move on? What do you then do? So I've got a clip for you. This is Pamela Anderson effectively laying out exactly that mantra.
Being bathed in that light night after night, feeling seen, feeling beautiful. That is powerful, and I can't imagine my life without it. I just think it's wild that, I'm the one who's been on the stage all these years, that I'm the one people come for. That I'm the one on the poster, and you, Eddie, are gonna go on to this show or that show, and the producers will just place you elsewhere because you know how to read a lighting cue? You just tell someone to push a damn button. And you're gonna be just fine. And I just have to disappear. You know what? I have no regrets.
It's nice that she's back, Pam. It's nice she's back.
Yeah, it is. And you know what? This is genuinely the greatest performance Pamela Anderson has ever delivered. This has dramatic heft. She's been nominated for several awards for this. She's been up for Best Actress. She was at the Screen Actors Guild Awards this past weekend. She was nominated for Best Actress for this. And it would have been an amazing story. Had there not been the Demi Moore story this year, Pamela Anderson would have been a terrific comeback story. Like, that would have been one for the ages, but obviously the Demi Moore, the substance thing kind of overshadows it. She's brilliant in this. She's got an amazing supporting cast as well that includes Jamie Lee Curtis, as I said, Dave Bautista, Brenda Song, Kiernan Shipka are in there as well. I think this is really solid. It's also quite a short, punchy film. It's only about 85 minutes.
Perfect.
And that's like including credits. But it's a very downbeat drama about finding meaning past a certain age when you've given your life to something, and that life, and when that life and that something are over, what do you do with yourself? And I thought, actually, of everyone in the universe to give that project to, Pamela Anderson's kind of perfect because it is the meta text.
Yeah.
And she knows this, she understands this. And she's been doing Broadway and a lot of stage shows and things like that over the past few years. She did Roxy Hart in Chicago on Broadway in the past couple of years, which I hear she was tremendous in. And I can believe that based on this, because at some point in those wilderness years, Pamela Anderson went to acting school, and evidently she was a very good student. She's terrific here. I've got nothing but love for this.
Oh, it's really good to hear a lovely positive review for that. If you want to go and watch The Last Showgirl, you can. It is out in cinemas from today. You can see it at the Curzon and Phoenix Picture House in Oxford, Cineworld, Whitney and Didcot, and the Light in Banbury showing it as well. Don't forget, if you love all things movies, make sure you're here for our new Friday game called Movie Makeover, which entails one of us, out of me, producer Dan and producer Sophie, becoming the lead role in a movie. You just have to tell us what the movie is and who we are playing. You're welcome to have a go at that, Van, at 12:20 this afternoon, if you like.
Oh man, I want to be creative. Can I pitch a creative one? I just want to get Dan to reenact Showgirls one week. That'd be fun.
It's on the list. It's on the list.
On the list. We'll do that.
Amazing.
We'll get Sophie doing RoboCop, Dan doing Showgirls. We'll get the works going.
I'll do Top Gun, if that's all right. That's
Top Gun, that works. Yeah.
Amazing. All right, Van, we will catch up with more movies to talk about on Friday next week. In the meantime, have a lovely week, and we'll catch up then.
Till next time, good sir.